Hey everyone. So today we are going to learn Redux, but like the actual good way. You know how Redux used to be? It was a nightmare. Actions here, reducers there, configurations everywhere, and too much boilerplate code. It was a mess. But then Redux Toolkit came and changed everything. अब it's so much cleaner. एक slice में सब कुछ मिल जाता है. Your state, actions, reducers, everything in one spot. Okay. So before we dive in, let me just show you real quick what Redux actually does for us. See, when your app gets bigger, managing state becomes hell. Data needs to go from this component to that component, and you end up doing props drilling like crazy. Redux Toolkit fixes all that. It gives you this nice, clean way to handle your state from one place, no matter how massive your app becomes. Cool. So now that you get the basic idea, let's see how it actually works. I'm going to use a super simple example first, so the whole concept clicks before we look at the real code in action. Okay. So in this example, we are going to build cart using Redux Toolkit. So when the user clicks on add button in the menu, our cart should get that item. This is the feature we are going to understand using Redux. Okay. But before that, let's understand all these jargons, reducers, actions, store, ये सब क्या है? Let's understand that. So first, let's talk about store. Think of it like this. The store is basically your app का central database. एक single place जहाँ पे तुम्हारी पूरी application की state रहती है. देखो नॉर्मली क्या होता है कि यू आर बिल्डिंग सम ऐप ओके लेट्स से अ शॉपिंग वेबसाइट तो उसमें यूजर का डेटा है कार्ट आइटम्स हैं प्रोडक्ट्स हैं ऑर्डर्स हैं बहुत सारा डेटा है ना और ये सब डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स में स्कैटर्ड होता है एक कंपोनेंट में यूजर इन्फो दूसरे में कार्ट तीसरे में प्रोडक्ट्स बहुत मेसी हो जाता है मैनेज करना है ना सो नाउ दिस रिडक्स स्टोर क्या करता है ये कि ये सब चीजें एक ही जगह रख देता है इट्स लाइक अ वन जावास्क्रिप्ट ऑब्जेक्ट वन बिग जावास्क्रिप्ट ऑब्जेक्ट दैट कंटेन्स एवरीथिंग योर ऐप नीड्स बट उसमें क्या होता है कि बहुत मेसी हो जाता है तो इसीलिए हम स्लाइसेस बनाते हैं एक स्लाइस बेसिकली तुम्हारी स्टेट का एक लॉजिकल पीस है एक स्लाइस होगा यूजर के लिए कार्ड के लिए ऐसे एक्शन इज बेसिकली अ प्लेन जावास्क्रिप्ट ऑब्जेक्ट जो डिस्क्राइब करता है कि व्हाट हैपेंड क्या इवेंट हुआ यूजर ने लॉगिन बटन क्लिक किया दैट्स एन एक्शन यूजर ने कार्ड में ऐड आइटम ऐड किया दैट्स एन एक्शन यूजर ने प्रोडक्ट डिलीट करा दैट्स एन एक्शन ओके देन कम्स रिड्यूसर्स रिड्यूसर एक सिंपल फंक्शन है जो दो चीजें लेता है एज इनपुट करंट स्टेट और एक्शन और ये वापस में रिटर्न करता है न्यू स्टेट या अपडेटेड स्टेट बेसिकली इसका काम है टू अपडेट द स्टेट ओके देन डिस्पैच जो है वो सेंड करता है ये सारे एक्शंस को दैट्स इट ओके so I've just given you a quick overview of these concepts actions reducers slices stores so you know what they are okay don't worry if it's not 100% clear right now. Everything will become crystal clear when I actually show you the code and explain how it all works together. यहाँ पर हम वापस अपने एग्जाम्पल पे आते हैं जैसे ही कोई भी यूजर ऐड बटन पे क्लिक करेगा what will happen an action will be dispatched okay this dispatch will then call the reducer function. This reducer function will update the slice in the store ठीक है. Now, to see those changes and reflect them on the UI, we use something called as use selector, which is basically subscribing to the store. अब जो changes cart slice में हुए होंगे, वो update भी तो हमें देखना है cart में, ठीक है? So whenever the store updates, use selector automatically grabs the new data and your component re-renders with the updated information, ठीक है? So let's see the flow real quick again. When a user clicks on this add button, an action will be dispatched. Okay. After this dispatch will then call the reducer function. This reducer function will then update the slice in the store. Okay. And then we basically use this use selector to subscribe to the store. It's like a term which we use, subscribe. है ना? And then we'll see the changes in the cart. This is the whole flow. All right, before you start coding, let me give you a little roadmap. There are basically a few steps you need to follow. Step one is that you install the Redux toolkit. That's the first thing you need to do. Second step is to create the store, set up your Redux store. Step three is to connect that store to your app. So your entire application has access to it. Okay. Then in step number four, you create slices. So you create a slice, define your state and reducers there. है ना? Then in step number 5, you do what? You dispatch actions. है ना? Dispatch actions, which basically does what? It triggers state updates from your components. And then you read the data using selector. Okay, subscribe to the store and display the data in your UI. You just need to follow these steps. Now, here we are creating a very simple app, a counter app, where we have three buttons which will increase, decrease, and reset the counter. So first step is that we create this counter slice. Okay, our counter slice has three parts. First, we give it a name, counter. Okay, and second, we define the initial state, which is an object with the value property set to 0. Third, we define reducers. These are functions that describe how our state can change. We have three reducers: increment, which increases the value by 1, decrement, which decreases it by 1, and reset, which sets it back to 0. Notice that how we are directly modifying the state. Okay, it looks like that we are mutating the state, but it's actually creating immutable state updates behind the scenes. It uses a library called immer. And then you can see at the bottom, we export two things: the actions that our components will dispatch and the reducer that the store will use. Next is we configure the store. We create our Redux store using configure store. The store is like a centralized database, right? We pass in a reducer object where each key represents a slice of state. Here we are adding our counter reducer. Okay. If we had like more features like a user slice or a product slice, we would add them all here. The store combines everything into a big state tree. Third step is to provide the store to our app. Now we need to make the store available to our entire React application. We do this in our main entry file using the provider component from React Redux. Okay. We wrap our entire app component with the provider and pass our store as a prop. This is our app component. We use two important hooks from React Redux, which are use dispatch and use selector. So as you can see here, what we are showing on the UI, there's a count and there are three buttons: increment, decrement, and reset. Now let's talk about this use selector first. So this hook lets us subscribe to the Redux store and read data from it. Okay, what we do, we pass it a function that receives the entire state and returns a specific piece we need. Here we are grabbing the store.counter.value. Okay, whenever this value changes in the store, our component automatically re-renders with the new value. Okay, then we have this use dispatch. This hook gives us the dispatch function, which is how we send actions to the store. When we click the plus button, we call dispatch with the increment action. Let me show you this action which we created in the counter slice. So if we go to our counter slice, here you can see all these actions. कि अगर increment होगा तो value 1 से बढ़ जाएगी, decrement होगा तो minus हो जाएगी एक value और reset पे 0 हो जाएगी. So this action goes to the reducer. The reducer updates the state, and because we are subscribed with use selector, our component re-renders showing the new count. Let's recap everything. One, we create the slices that define your state structure. Second, we configure the store that combines all your slices. Third, we provide that store to your React app so that all components can access it. And fourth, we use selector to subscribe and read state, and use dispatch to send actions that update the state. That's it. That's Redux Toolkit. I hope it helped.